Hello and welcome to the National Family Legacy Podcast. My name is Andy Palomares. I'm so happy that you're tuning in today. Today I had the awesome opportunity of sitting down with Jeff Hardesty and Stephen Hordinski. Both are doctors and surgeons who have been part of Tree of Life medical missions for over 10 years now. And the conversation was awesome. We learned about their most recent trip to Mexico, as well as some of the surgeries that they've done and ways that they invite people to get involved. And I'm so excited for you to hear this conversation. Thanks for being here.
Welcome to the National Family Legacy Podcast, where we explore uplifting narratives from organizations making a positive impact in our world. To connect with us or explore further, visit our website at nationalfamilylegacy.org. We're thrilled that you've joined us for today's episode.
Hello and welcome to the National Family Legacy Podcast. My name is Andy. I'm so happy that you're here. Today is an awesome episode. I'm here with Jeff Hardesty and Stephen Hordinski, who are both doctors and part of Tree of Life Medical Missions. And hello, you two. We're so happy that you're here.
Thank you for having us.
Yeah, so before we get into talking about Tree of Life, if you could share a little bit about who you guys are. We'll start with you, Jeff. A little bit of your backstory and briefly your connection to Tree of Life. And then after that, we'll go to you.
Okay, well, I'm an OB/GYN doctor and been working here at Loma Linda University in California since 1993. I had opportunity when I finished my residency training here in 1985 to work at a mission hospital in Malaysia for 8 years and have been working here since. And Steve Hordinski was a residency classmate of mine, although he finished 1 year ahead of me, has always been my boss or my chief. So I always have to look up to him no matter what. He gives me advice on how to do things correctly, and I still appreciate that even today.
That's a joke.
That's awesome.
Okay.
Who are you? Tell us about yourself.
I'm Stephen Hordinski. I went to Loma Linda University Medical School. I did my residency training at Loma Linda. And I think it was around 1981 or 1982 that I met Jeff. He was the junior to me, but far superior now. And I finished residency and I spent 4 years in Riverside. Then I came to Redlands for the rest of my career. Nice. And in 2008, I went on my first mission trip, not with Tree of Life, but to Vietnam. Dr. Wilbert Gonzalez recommended it to me, and I liked it, and he went with us. And then he mentioned, hey, you should go to one of Jeff's trips on Tree of Life, and I'm here for life.
There you are. That's awesome. So you guys have known each other for a long time. I actually didn't know that about you two, so it's awesome to hear that part of your guys' story.
I guess
we're like husband and wife on these trips. We fight constantly.
All the time.
Well, it's over 40 years we've known each other now, and yeah, he mentioned Dr. Wilbert Gonzalez, who's now passed, but he was instrumental in getting us involved with global outreach and helping those that are in need in countries where there's just not enough medical doctors to take care of their problems, right, or lack of funds to be able to afford care. So yes, I thank you for bringing up about Will Gonzalez. Inspiration to both of us.
Awesome.
I know.
Yeah. So briefly, can you remind me, when did Tree of Life start, and then how did you guys get involved with Tree of Life?
Okay, well, soon after I returned to Loma Linda in 93, maybe 7-8 years later, I started going down to Mexico on invitation from a young student nurse who told me that her village where she had come from in Mexico had no doctors at all, and that people were really quite desperate. So I got a group together. 6 of us went on this very first trip, and we found out what she said was true. We set up a little kind of a camp setup. We slept in tents in the backyard of her parents' house, and then we saw patients, and they'd be lining up down the street. Eventually, we went back about once or twice a year, and developed a little bit more sophisticated way, and we got a local doctor who was able to let us use his facility. We contacted a hospital not too far away, the next town over, that let us use their operating room, and that's how we started eventually being able to do surgeries and use government facilities. And so that went on for several years, but that was in the state of Michoacan, which you probably know is under the highest level of restriction for travelers from the U.S. because of the problems with cartels and violence and not able to guarantee safety of travelers there. So when that became such a problem, I fortunately met Betty
Romero.
Thank you,
There you
Betty
go, yeah.
Romero, who invited me to start coming down to Chiapas, Mexico. So that's how that started. Chiapas, Mexico, about the third trip I went down there with a group. I met your parents, your dad, and your mother, and also your uncle, Carlos. So Armando Norelli and Carlos and I said, hey, we could do a better job if we were organized instead of just calling up people and randomly, let's go.
Wow, yeah.
Making this a real full-fledged organization. So that has been a big bonus. And so I think that was around 2010 or something like that. Yeah.
And Dr. Hordinski, did you go on the very first trip with them in around that time, 2010?
No, I came a few years later.
Later. Gotcha.
Yeah.
Okay.
Probably in the mid-teens.
Gotcha. Okay. And so you've been here from the beginning, and then so that was quite a early on in, I'd say, in Tree of Life's lifespan. How have you seen it evolve? Because I know that you guys used to take smaller groups, and I've been on trips with Tree of Life before, and we've had about 50 people go and have had, it seems like hundreds of people line up for surgeries and whatnot. How have you seen it evolve, and has that been a good evolution, or has it come with a lot of problems as well?
Well, it makes logistic problems when we bring
Right.
down big groups. We've had up to, I think the maximum we've ever had was 70 when we were in Palenque about a year and a half ago, which was great because we had enough people to go out to some of the outlying villages, provide dental care, general medical screening, and then those that needed in-hospital care or surgical care, we were able to bring them down to the main city where the hospital was that was allowing us to use their operating room. So. And then we had a whole team, of course, doing the surgeries. And then we had in the main city there also a large clinic that the government had allowed us to take or to use during that week. And we were seeing 300 patients a day in the clinic, plus
Wow.
these little villages. And yeah, those are, I mean, they're grand because there's a lot of people involved, and the spirit is wonderful, and we can accomplish many things. And I feel like we really make an impact on the community and also on the people around the trip. But yes, the last trip we went, we only had 12 people, and we just did a primary surgery only trip. This because the state government of Chiapas said, hey, we have a need for 30 hysterectomies to be done. Women with heavy bleeding due to fibroids, some are anemic, and they just can't function. And so we just did that recently. So the size varies. But as far as the evolution of the group, I think it has been God's hand in it, because now we have a bona fide 501c3 charity. We have directors, we have board members, we have a foundation that allows us to go do these kind of trips on an official basis and make a lasting contribution to the people there that are in need. And branching out, we've done other things, building projects, churches, and helping various families who had serious medical problems that needed some financial help to be able to get them done up in the capital city and so forth. So it has involved as something that I think is really God-inspired, that we've been able to do these things.
Yeah, but I think what I've found so awesome about Tree of Life is that there's always been people readily available and willing to go on these trips. I don't see every decision that's made, and there's probably a lot of hoops that you guys have to jump through to get these trips to happen. But from what I've seen is there's always a long list of people that are willing to go on these trips and serve. And I think that's a beautiful thing for sure. So you guys just did a trip. Remind me where you guys just went?
You can tell.
We were in Comitán in Chiapas.
Gotcha. Nice. And when you were there, obviously I know this, but maybe the people listening that don't know this, often for the last couple of years, you have gone to Palenque in Mexico. And this time you guys went to a new place. How do you guys pick your communities? Is it you guys just are on Google, or do you get in contact with local governments? How does that work?
Well, we work under the auspices of the State Health Department of the state of Chiapas. Chiapas is the poorest state of Mexico. It consists of a lot of people of Mayan descent, different tribal groups, speaking different dialects and so forth, and they kind of live, many of them, on kind of like you might say, Native American Indian reservation lands, and they mostly are farming, subsistence farming. A lot of them don't have much cash at all, but they can make a living by just growing what they need to grow, and everything from the very beginning. If you want to eat a corn tortilla, you got to go plant the corn seed and water it and harvest the corn and grind it up, and you just don't go buy it at the store there, that kind of a thing. But the state government realizes that they have not enough medical providers for the number of people there, and especially the poorer classes. So they have opened up a special program called Extramuros that allows outside groups that are interested in providing care for those in great need to come and do that and work under their auspices, and they open up the government hospitals for us to use their facilities. So that's what we have been doing. They choose the place. They've asked me on occasion when we meet with them, usually once a year or so, where would you like to go? And sometimes I tell them, but sometimes most of the time I just say, where is the need the greatest? That's where we'll go. Often it has been Palenque. Palenque is known as the most impoverished area within the state of Chiapas. So, and fortunately, there is a hospital there that we've worked closely with on multiple occasions, and it has good number of facilities for operating rooms. So we've been able to do those large groups and run both clinic and surgeries for general surgery, hernias, gallbladders, removing tumors, and then the GYN surgeries, hysterectomy, prolapse, incontinence, these kind of things. So it's been very fruitful. We think we have a good contact with the government, and the cooperation between the state government and the hospitals we go. And what we do is very rewarding to work with that group and see how each person can contribute in a way to get the best outcomes for these needy people.
Yeah, I think it's so incredible that where the biggest need is where you guys go. And Chiapas being not only the most impoverished state in Mexico, but also, going to, the Palenque area to the most impoverished part of that state. That's really big, and it's really important for sure. And I've been able to see firsthand people in tears on these trips, from the people who serve, like from nurses to doctors to just people who aren't even involved in the medical field that come just to be helping hands, and as well as the gratefulness from the people who are being served there. We were talking briefly before this that some people are on lists in the local government to get surgeries, and some people maybe are on a list, but it'll take years and years before they can get medical services. And so to be able to do these trips, and I have seen firsthand that you guys are reaching people that would otherwise be waiting a long time, for sure. Speaking of these trips, you mentioned some of the services, the medical services that you guys provide. Do you guys have any stories about these medical services? Maybe a surgery story or a clinic story that you guys could share?
Want to tell us about anything? We do a lot of surgeries there as far as GYN surgeries, but we have other specialties come too. I was going to think of one from orthopedic surgeon that came down, but you have anything that you'd like to tell us about some of the surgeries you've been involved with?
Well, you might want to talk about the dentists.
Okay.
We've got Mark Gordon and Andy Boyd, but in the past, they've done dental work on plastic chairs with dogs sitting underneath them while they're working, and fleas.
There you go.
And they do a great job locally, and they go out into the communities and help out there. But you mentioned earlier how it's easy to get volunteers to go on this. And I think the reason for that is multiple fold. One is your parents, Armando and Norelli, and Jeff are such great organizers. And I've been on different mission trips, and this trip is a pleasure to be on. We work hard, but it's well planned out. We eat well, we sleep well, and the people we work with down there in Chiapas, the Mexican doctors and the staff, are wonderful to work with. So that makes it much more likely people are going to want to go back.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I remember going to I don't think it was categorized yet as Tree of Life. We just went on a trip to Mexico. And this was before I think that the idea of Tree of Life was born, but we were in a hut, and it was, humid as can be. It was probably 95 degrees. And my sister and I, we went on this trip because my parents brought us, and there were mosquitoes everywhere. We were miserable. I had to be like 9 years old or something like that. But to see it evolved, I went on a trip with them to see now, like you're saying, how much work they put in with not only the hotels and whatnot that they organize with, but also the local government to make sure everybody's traveling well. It takes a lot to make these trips happen, which is really, really important for sure.
Yeah. Now, you asked about the things that I remember that stand out, different cases and so forth. I can share with one, it was a few years ago. It was in the town of Cintalapa. You, Steve's been there before. Maybe you can tell us about the case that you came in on a wild taxi ride to get to the hospital. But I'll share first of one that was an orthopedic case. We sometimes have orthopedic surgeons join us too. And there was a young man that came into our clinic early in the week, and his one leg was maybe 3-4 inches shorter than the other leg. And he was probably 20 years old, and he relayed that he'd been in a bad accident. His femur had broken. His family didn't have any money. They couldn't afford to get a proper surgical treatment to put plates and bones in his bones and screws to hold it straight. So when you look at his x-rays, the bones had overlapped. It didn't heal properly. Instead of this way, the big break was there, and now there. That's why one leg was shorter. And he was a sole breadwinner for his family. His parents were older and had some other medical problems themselves. And now he was injured, and there was no one to help. And he couldn't walk hardly because of the distance in his legs. And he lived on a little island in a lake, maybe a couple hours drive away from where we were. So the orthopedic surgeon said, I'll take this case on. He said, I hardly ever see a case like this anytime in my training. But we took him under anesthesia. He opened up the leg, and I remember stretch those bones out because they'd fused together in an abnormal way, but to break them apart and then stretch them and to get them to line up and then hold it together with these plates and screws. It was a lot of physical stretching to get that to line up, and then did it. And next year we went back. He was walking. He was doing. He tells us about he was working. He came back just to thank us and brought us some gifts from his family.
That's
and
beautiful.
It changed his life and that of his family members as well, because now he was able to be gainfully employed and got his ability to walk back again.
That's amazing.
That was, I thought, quite an impactful
that's
event.
another aspect that I think is so important, is that people who are receiving these medical services sometimes are the sole breadwinner for their family. They're the providers, and as their health declines, so does their income potential. And I can imagine that when they receive their surgeries, it's not just that they feel better, that they have a better ability to walk, but it's their family's future now is a little brighter because they have the ability to work harder and to earn money. And that's a very important aspect of this too. And I can't imagine what that must have been like to try to pull apart bones. I'm glad that you went through many years of medical school and training I can't imagine what that's like.
Well, I'm an OBGYN, and we didn't train to do that, but I was assisting an orthopedic surgeon. He said, just pull harder.
You're like, I could do that.
We got it done.
Awesome. I'd love to hear the Cintalapa story if you know what he's talking about.
Oh, I think I do. I think that was the first year I went on the mission trip.
Oh, really?
Year one.
Yeah, and we were split into two groups.
Mm-hmm.
I think you were with my group at the nice little hotel by the
Hacienda.
Guatemalan border.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we were there, and we were doing tubals, and the other group was in the big city. And you got a call from them saying, we got a big problem here. We need one of you here. And so you stuck me in a taxi cab, and Dion was with me. And somebody expressed to the driver what an emergency was. He'd get me to the other city and as fast as possible. And my seat had no seatbelt, and the driver drove like a madman. I didn't think we were going to get there alive. And then when I arrived there, it was like a bloodbath.
Oh my goodness!
And patient was in the operating room.
Patient in the operating room.
The process of trying to do
everywhere.
a hysterectomy, and it was a very bad, big, huge tumor and a difficult case.
And there was one or two gynecologists. There was a urologist. There was a general surgeon. There was Carlos
providing anesthesia. Yeah.
Providing anesthesia, and we got it fixed.
Wow.
Yeah.
Carlos took a video of you. Maybe said it, and Steve has got a lot of experience with doing surgery on these difficult cases, and he's got excellent surgical hands. And it's true, there was a lot of doctors in there, but things were stuck. The patient was bleeding. She was needing transfusions. They had injured some of the surrounding organs that needed repairs, but the tumor was still stuck down there. And I think he said Steve got it out like in 3 minutes or something.
I did. I said you might have a little more bleeding for a few minutes, and it'll get better. And I yanked it out.
Wow.
Unfortunately, the ureter had been injured on the left side, but we had a urologist there, but we didn't have the stents to work with, so we used a pediatric feeding tube as a stent and put it in place, and a year later, the lady is fantastic.
Wow.
And still has a good kidney and still has a better life. No
That's
bleeding,
incredible.
No tumor.
How do you feel in a moment like that? Because from
At that particular moment, I was, I don't let on the outside that I'm a little worried.
Sure, yeah.
And then when we got it out and got things calmed down, it's very, very rewarding.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. I mean, I'm thinking in my life, there are very few moments where it's quite literally life or death. There's deadlines, there's things to do, and to think about being in another country, being rushed across town to a surgery like that. I want to commend you for not only keeping your cool, but
well, I didn't have a
saving
choice.
someone.
Jeff told me to get in the taxi and go to
I think I was still
You were sick.
Oh, yeah, that's true. Sometimes we do get sick. We have to be careful what we eat there. I think that was the day I would have been vomiting and diarrhea most of the day.
That's how it goes.
So I said, you're the only guy that can go and help with a sick case out.
It was more exciting than tubals.
oh wow, yeah.
Steve he's known here in his training at Loma Linda for a special maneuver that he has got named after him, and it involves removing difficult uteruses. So he's got that experience, and so he used that
What a
technique
guy.
for a very good reason on that day.
He's
So
making
that's
fun of
what-
me right now.
Okay.
I'm complimenting
Doctor
your
can recognize.
resourcefulness,
There you go.
which he needed to do to save a woman's life. That was quite spectacular. And yes, we've seen that lady. I know on subsequent trips she came for an examination and just came how grateful, how she was, how she didn't have such heavy bleeding, constant anemia, no energy to function. She was back to being her normal self. She was very, very appreciative.
That's amazing.
On the last trip to Palenque, there was a lady who had a fibroid uterus and 5 kids, was anemic, lived in a shack with all these kids and her mother, and basically was so anemic, she was weak, she could hardly work. And after the surgery that Bruce did, she was fantastic. And it's not going to alleviate her poverty, but it's going to make it easier for her
Right.
work.
Yeah.
So
Most
we
definitely.
can't fix everything, but we do the best we can.
Yeah, I think it's just the realization of the impact that you have in individuals' lives is so beautiful. And I can imagine just the gratefulness and also just the hope that someone experiences. Tree of Life, one of the taglines that you guys always use is to provide hope and healing. And I think those two things really go hand in hand in your field. It's that there's this new hope that they have because they have new opportunities. They have hopefully less to no pain anymore, or at least improved life, which is so beautiful. Now, these are some of the highlights of trips. What kind of difficulties do you guys face? Maybe in the planning or just practically, like you mentioned, getting sick, waking up each day, and then if you don't feel very good because you ate the wrong food that morning or the night before. What are some of the difficulties that you guys have faced on the trips?
Well, we have difficulties. Sometimes our plans don't come to fruition. Twice in this last 2 years, we've had to cancel some trips because the hospital on the Mexican side was not ready. They had some problems with the facilities. The operating room didn't have the equipment, no anesthetic machines. Sometimes the operating room had been under disrepair, not used. The roof was leaking, molds growing on the walls. It wasn't really safe to do surgeries under these conditions, and they had no money to really fix it up. So we've had to at least twice cancel some of the trips that we had planned, and already had people signed up and taking time off to go, so it's disappointing. We've had other problems like getting our supplies through the customs, the aduana in Mexico City en route to our destination in Chiapas, and negotiating with them how much fee we pay for importing surgical supplies that we're going to be using free for their people on a charity basis. It seems a little strange, but there is some times barriers that come up. But overall, God has blessed, and we're able to do far beyond what you think you can do. Because when you have just a small group go there, you think, what can we really accomplish? We can run a clinic, we can give some antibiotics and treat some people for blood pressure, diabetes, but just kind of a Band-Aid over what's an underlying problem. But I feel the unique thing about Tree of Life is that we have kind of focused not just medical problems, but also surgical, dental, and getting permission from the government to use their facilities to help their poorest people. So it's something that makes a lifelong lasting impact in that manner, because these are things that are really critical for a person's health. A timely surgery, having access to it. We don't think much about it in America, but in there it's just the way of life. If there's no doctor available and you'd have the money to pay a private doctor, then you just wait.
Right.
They have a lot of barriers to health care if they're poor.
Right.
Like at Comitan, they had to have a certain sequence of things done before they could have surgery. Like a blood count. Well, they have to have the money for the blood count. Wow. So they might get that done. They might come back 6 months later for the EKG when they finally have money for that, and then money for this and money for that, and then they may make it to surgery.
Right.
So in the meantime, they suffer a little bit.
Yeah.
Or maybe a lot.
And hopefully this doesn't happen, but I can imagine maybe problems even worsen as the waiting goes on. And I think we were talking briefly before this, but if you could tell everybody that process that you're talking about, like there's certain steps, and I think there's also, you're calling it a sliding scale of where you're at financially. How does that work, if you could briefly share that? And then how does Tree of Life step into that and kind of shake that up?
Okay, yeah. So the most recent trip, we were in Comitan, Mexico, which is a lovely town, and they have a maternity hospital. That's actually a women's and children's hospital, because they're a catchment area for all these Mayan tribal groups coming in from quite a distance, 2, 3, or 4 hours drive to get down to this one center. And they actually have even an expectant mother's waiting apartment or dormitory, you might think of it. We first went there to look at this as a possible site about 6 years ago. Was planning to go, then COVID came along, we had to cancel some trips. But when I first went there at that time, there was like a tent city all around the outside of the hospital. I wonder, what is that for? They said, well, some of those people, maybe their family or someone's going to have a baby, or someone's had a surgery and their family's camping in a tent because they can't afford to stay in a hotel, waiting for them to be able to come home. But most of them were expectant mothers, close to their due date. But they wanted the safety of having access to a hospital in case there was a complication, in case they needed a C-section, because they live in these small villages where there's maybe a health clinic at the most, no real bona fide medical care. There may be a village midwife, but if you got into real trouble and you needed a cesarean, your labor is prolonged, you started bleeding, hemorrhage, baby was in distress, mother in distress, there's no resource. Right. And several hours, and when you're in labor, how to hike down a trail to where the closest bus station is and wait there for a bus to take you into the city. I mean, it's just not possible. So, there are people who die in labor because they just don't have access to care. So they had set up this dormitory for expectant women, and now they don't have to live in tents. So I thought that was an improvement from the time 6 years ago. And this time they had said, okay, we're going to have you have these 2 rooms. We often use these as labor rooms. They're not officially set up for operating rooms, but we're going to bring in anesthetic equipment, oxygen tanks, so forth, and adjoining their regular recovery room for post-anesthesia care. And so they did a really nice job. The local doctors worked with us, and we had an excellent trip. 12 of us went. We did 28 hysterectomies in 4 days. And
3.5.
Okay. Well, we worked hard to get those cases done in the 3.5 days. But to me, the most satisfying thing, the thing that probably keeps me wanting to keep coming to these trips, is the rewards of helping people who are in great need. And when I do post-op rounds, each patient, instead of complaining how much pain they have, like typically we see patients here in America, these women, all they could do was express their gratitude
Right.
for the fact that we were able to help them in any ways that we could, and that relieve these problems they've had with heavy bleeding and made their lives miserable. Right. So it's a real blessing to be able to
That's awesome.
show some love and express it in a way that's tangible and physically healing. And they bless us all the time. Almost every woman we operate in is asking God's blessing on us when we leave and go. So it is really a great pleasure and makes our life fulfilling. One of the reasons why Steve and I went into medical care was to be able to help people who need it, and these special group of people are in great need, and it's really a privilege to be able to participate in this.
That's beautiful. That's beautiful. Now, as we wrap up, I have a question for you guys, but would it be fair to say that you would recommend that people go on these trips to experience it? Would it be fair to say that?
Yes. I think if you go on these trips, you really appreciate what we have here a lot more when you get back.
That's awesome.
Because we work under different conditions there where we don't have everything at our fingertips.
Right.
We can't tell the nurse to bring me this, bring me that. There you have to make do with what you have, and you have to be a little inventive, MacGyver things sometimes.
Right.
Like sometimes they'll bring you a vaginal pack for a abdominal set and an abdominal set for a vaginal pack, and Jeff is fine with all that.
There you go.
And I learned to shut up and not complain.
Just follow his lead, I guess.
And it's a great feeling when you're there.
Yeah.
And it brings me a lot of joy.
That's awesome. Yeah. And Jeff, what about you? Would you recommend that people go on this trip, and why?
I certainly, and it doesn't have to be a medical person. I mean, sure, we like to have providers who are able to do primary care, pediatrics, internal medicine, screen people in clinics, and that's an important thing because often we have clinics where I said we can see up to 300 people a day, and very appreciative. We do everything for free. We bring our meds down there, or as we buy them locally and distribute it, and that is a wonderful thing. But also to be able to have nurses that work in the operating room, surgical technicians, the different types of surgeons, GYN, general, orthopedics, urology, all of those who have attended on these trips. And there's many more that could come if we had ability to fix cleft lip, cleft palates, which we've done on some trips, but do that regularly, that would be huge. We could always have more dentists. The line for dentistry is seemingly endless, number of patients. There's so many more opportunities we could do. So yes, we'd love to have volunteers join us on this trip. I think you'll find that the blessing you gain is much far than you give out.
That's amazing. Yeah, so if anybody is out there listening and is thinking, man, these trips sound awesome, how do I get involved? How do they do that? Do they just go to the website? Do they get in contact with you? What's the best way to do that?
Steve is our best recruiter overall.
There you go.
I think the official way is through the website, treeoflifemedicalmissions.org. But
a word of mouth, I find all sorts of people that I drag them along, and they usually want to come back again and again.
Nice. Cool. So
I'd say 99% of the people who go on this trip are great people. We get along very well. There's great fellowship.
Nice.
And we accomplish a lot.
That's amazing.
Maybe not, we don't solve the world's problems. We fix it for a few people in Palenque.
Yeah.
So.
And that's a beautiful thing for sure. Anybody that I meet, I'm going to point them towards you then to get on these trips, or to you too, Jeff. So thank you guys for being part of this podcast. We're so happy, and we're thankful for the time that you took out of your day to be here. And we look forward to hearing about the next trip, because I'm sure that's coming up in the next year or so.
We would love to do these trips more, spend more time, take care of more patients, but we're limited by finances. So if there's anybody out there that watches this video and you're very wealthy and you like to buy your way into heaven, if you donate a lot of money, we can take care of a lot more people. And every penny that comes into this organization is spent on the people there. Nobody gets any money out of this except the people of Mexico. And they don't get money, but they get care.
That's amazing.
Amen, brother.
Thank you, everybody, for tuning into this episode. Make sure to stay connected through our website. That's nationalfamilylegacy.org. On our Instagram, that's nationalfamily.legacy. And, of course, on our YouTube channel. Thank you so much for tuning in. We'll see you in the next one.